This is the reaction to Inside Star Citizen Strategic Reserves. I have not seen this yet. This came out today, 2/27/25. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into it.
Are you happy with yourself?
Over the moon. Ecstatic with myself.
Their armor was the same with a color difference. There was a mission where we told you to go kill slicer supplies that was the exact same when we told you to go kill frontier fighter supplies.
The data pads I placed around Stanton as well, telling you, giving you hints that maybe something was going on. I think this is a great kind of PSA to read your contracts from now on. Maybe I hid them a little too well. Sorry.
No, they're talking about the Frontier Fighters, the switch, the plot twist. I mean, to be fair, yeah. So the armor sets are the same for the slicers and the Frontier Fighters. There were context clues that were obvious, but we're not used to getting any type of context clues from Star Citizen, from the mission team, or from anyone really. Narrative has never been a big focus of the game up until this point, so nobody's expecting narrative consequences to play out in game and to actually impact your allegiance. Now, to be fair to CIG, the Frontier Fighters, by all intents and purposes, if you read the contract, were committing genocide. So you know, you picking Frontier Fighters because you liked the ship skins rewards that were promised for completing their mission chain, and not really reading what it was that they were attempting to do, that's kind of on you. But again, to me, both sides, CIG and the community at large, who are who engaged in the Frontier Fighters and were upset that they were actually the villain the entire time. I mean, I think CIG and the community both need to kind of do better about communicating. I don't think that it's good gameplay to have a plot twist that will affect your status in the game, or your allegiance, or your alignment. If it can have a negative impact on your playing experience, like, I don't know if that's really a good thing to do, unless there is a way to reverse it. If that is something that you were not like, narratively it's a good decision, but you got to give players a way out to, like, because some people just honestly weren't really paying attention. We all looked at the ship skins, and most people decided, okay, I'm gonna side with whichever faction has the coolest looking armor and ship skins. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's funny.
By now, you will have realized that the Frontier Fighters weren't exactly who they said they were. Or, in other cases, they were exactly who they said they were.
Frontier Fighters were specifically designed to show players that we can mess with their morals via this narrative storytelling.
Frontier Fighters were the ones who staged the attack on Stanton, posing as slicers to cause an uproar about Pyro, to stage a war on Pyro, to get rid of the criminal gangs that are there.
It was a band of mercenaries led by a woman called Amelia, who wanted to start an attack in Stanton to drum up hate for Pyro so that she could get the backing of regular people to go and attack Pyro.
But that also included civilians, and that also included gangs who had no interest in threatening Stanton at all.
So this was a false flag operation?
Yes, this was a false flag operation.
Mm-hmm.
And you fell for it. You fell for it.
They fell for it.
They fell
but
for it.
You named it Maniac after yourself.
I didn't do that. Haddock did that.
So our next chapter in March
funny.
is called Supply or Die. This is split into 3 parts of the event. This is where the CFP and the Headhunters are coming off the heels of the invasion of the Frontier Fighters, and they're trying to resupply and rebuild to continue the efforts of attacking the Frontier Fighters. This event is essentially a one-shot. You have to play it in March, and when the next patch drops after that, you won't be able to play it again or earn the rewards.
Okay, but I'm sure that the mission design, this type of mission will return at some point in the future. It's just that this specific narrative event that is using this mission design is a one-off, or at least this part of the story is a one-off. But I'm pretty sure that we'll see this gameplay in the future.
With this narrative arc that we're doing for the rest of this year, we're really trying to build these moments in our history where you as the player will come in and experience it, and then if you was here for it, great. But if you wasn't, you've missed out.
For this event, there are 6 new locations that we built, 1 on each of the major planets in Pyro. These locations are discoverable by quantum marker, and at these locations you will find these outlaw depots.
Okay, so you have to have the mission because he said it's discoverable by quantum marker. So you probably, I guess you don't get the quantum marker unless you've accepted the mission, which is okay because that will limit the amount of traffic there to basically just people who have the mission. So you're not gonna get a mission that isn't related to this storyline that will take you to this location, just like the Jump Town locations. I think there's specific. Well, I think there were underworld missions or criminal missions that took you to like Raven's Roost and the other 2 locations, which names escape me right now. Yeah, well, Jump Town's one of them, but yeah, there were criminal missions that would take you to the location, or if you knew exactly where it was on the planet, you could fly there yourself. But again, this is kind of like instancing without instancing.
The difference between an outpost and a depot is that an outpost is generally a lot larger in size. There's various things to do at an outpost. It's like a little community that kind of is in one way or another self-sufficient. A depot is really just an offshoot storage location. So in that sense, it doesn't have all the amenities for a local population or for the player as well. It's more of like an offshoot location in that sense.
The
That's
depots
cool.
see the return of the scavengers, the circus essentially. It was introduced with the ghost arenas.
So this is not a faction we've seen much about, but it's a faction that we can identify by green text and spray paints on the buildings.
So as you go around the environment, you'll see that they've tagged it, and they'll be saying you can get big money here and go here and go here. This is where you buy it. Look out here, take cover here. The location is one that they've taken over, and they've added their unique twist to.
The outlaw depots, I think, are really cool from a player perspective through the way that it's a location that is really built for the interaction. It provides a lot of cover. It's located in a more convenient, accessible way. It has very clear, distinct sections, so that helps hopefully as well for the players to kind of call out where the different people are coming from or where they are located. So it's a high-risk, high-reward location that is really built for PvP. There is an initial population at the location, so if you're the first there to show up, you might be a little bit careful. If you're gonna land in the middle, might be a little bit hot, but that's the right challenge that we're trying to provide for you guys.
Okay, so yeah, this is Jump Town 3.0 basically. That is a huge payout. 24 million. That's insane. So they've got to use these locations after this event is over though. Like, because so the outpost and the depot, like they've created a faction, or at least there is a faction there that runs these locations. So I hope that at some point in the future, like, and this ties to a conversation that I've had previously about content density in the game. Like, we need locations like that. Like he said, that the outposts are self-sufficient, so they can supply themselves, which to me should also mean that there should be mission content at those locations that players can engage in at that location without ever having to leave the location. Like, you can get a lot of different gameplay at one of these locations, at one of those outposts, and same with any other outpost in Pyro. Like, there should be a lot of content mission wise that will keep players at that location for as long as they want to be there.
One of the first missions requires you to get a commodity called Datatrine, and there's a mission for CFB and Headhunters. This commodity requires you to go to these depots where you have to invest your own money to get this Datatrine and return it to either faction that you decided to go with. Datatrine is a rare plant that they can refine, so the CFB can use it for medical purposes, and the Headhunters can use it for more fun purposes.
Elliot came over to
It's just like Jumptown.
the economy area and said, hey, I've got some new missions we're building, and they're a little bit different from some we've done before. So we worked together to come up with a fairly new reward structure specifically for these new missions.
The idea as well is that if you've completed this mission series and you've got your reward, you can just keep going. You can sell these commodities in the sandbox world and get quite a big profit margin. But again, your risk is you have to put up your own money, put in your own time, and risk your own life.
Which I like, because that was an issue that I had with at least because I didn't play the original Jumptown, but the remake of it, where the original Jumptown was a bug that in the game, that the drug printers at the Jumptown location for some reason were like infinitely printing, and so people were going to the location and getting these drugs basically for free and then selling them because they were very expensive but very profitable. And because as people learned that this was happening, people were going there, and then fights would break out, and it was very chaotic, and it was a very emergent gameplay experience that wasn't designed, it wasn't intentional, it was people learned of it over time just through playing the game, and so it created a very unique experience that a lot of the people who were there for it like cherished basically forever. The second version tried to put like a mission structure around it, but honestly, narratively, the mission didn't make sense, because like basically these drug labs were printing like large amounts of these drugs, and if you were wanted to side with the outlaws, you could go there and sell the stuff to Grimhex, and it would give you X amount of AUEC per 1/8 container. And on the lawful side, the lawful factions were supposed to go and then take them to one of the space stations, and then you would turn it in and you would get paid. And to me, narratively, that's where it falls apart, because it's like, well, wouldn't the law enforcement shouldn't they just be going over there to shut it down? And like, it was kind of weird. It was fun, but narratively weird. This makes a whole lot more sense being in Pyro, and the commodity that's being used is, has multiple use cases. Like they said, Elliot said that, it can be used for medicine, but it can also be used for other things. So I'd assume if it can be used in medicine, it can also become a drug, because, it's all about dosage, right? Like,
for the mining mission, again, both factions will require you to get 2 commodities. So they require you to get ice, which can be found on the extremities of the Pyro solar system, so as far out from the sun as you can where it gets colder. Or tin, which is found closer to the sun. Actions will require your own time and risk your own life. For the mining mission, again, both factions will require you to get 2 commodities. So they require you to get ice, which can be found on the extremities of the Pyro solar system, so as far out from the sun as you can where it gets colder. Or tin, which is found closer to the sun, that can be stolen, bought, or mined and refined yourself. However you wish to get these, they don't care, they just want the commodity. And then you'll have a destination where you're asked to drop them off. And last is the salvage mission.
I like
the salvage
this.
mission is asking for RMC, so that's hull scraping, or construction materials, so that's the actual structural salvage part where you have to fracture the ship. And again, both factions are asking for it and they both have their own drop-off points. How you get the salvage is, again, up to you. You can kill ships and harvest their corpse. You could accept the salvage missions and use those ships, or you could just fly about and attempt to find the salvage panels.
This is so I love this because this is something that Jumptown lacked, which was the players needing to put money up, or actually go and do certain gameplay in order to acquire certain the commodity that was in demand, right? So now what it sounds like is they have created very low risk to high risk commodity options and missions for each of the factions who need these commodities, right? So again, it ties into the lore, it ties into the overall story that's unfolding, and it's also giving you options for gameplay. If you want to participate, like the ice mission and the salvage missions probably are more like for the PvE side, people who don't want to necessarily engage in combat, because most people aren't going to go after you if you're mining ice and salvage. Like the data trine is going to be the high risk, high reward commodity. That's what everyone's going to be fighting over. So I like that they're giving you options and other avenues and other ways to engage in the content without forcing you into the high risk, high reward PvP content that I'm sure that $24 million contract, that's absolutely going to entice a lot of confrontation. Like, you're going to those outposts, you're going to those depots, you're definitely getting PvP. Like, it's going to happen. That's where it turns into Jumptown for sure.
The event is both PvP and PvE. It takes place in Pyro, so you've always got to have your wits about you. The Data Trine one that takes place at the outposts will have more of a PvP element because it's going to have more reward for people who are PvPing. The mining and salvage one are introduced for more industrial players, more PvE. There's not much you really need to do here PvP-wise, but again, you're in Pyro.
Plus, you could do the salvage mission, and you can probably do the ice. I don't know if ice is in Stanton. I have honestly no clue. If you do know, let me know in the comments if ice is you can mine ice in Stanton. I know you can in Pyro, but like with this mission, you could technically just salvage, salvage in Stanton if you are more PvE focused. Salvage in Stanton, get your cargo ship loaded up, fly to Pyro, accept the mission to deliver, because all it's saying, right, like deliver 105 SCU construction material to Ruin Station, 56 to Ruin Station. So you could do this in Stanton, and then just all you have to do is make the delivery, right? Accept the mission, deliver the appropriate number of SCU, and you get paid for it. So like I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure people find reasons to be upset about this, and there's over a possibility that it's not gonna play out the way they intended. But to me, this is them at least making an effort to create variety of options for different play styles.
Pyro,
I love
keep your
that.
wits about you, because you never know who's going to turn up.
The thing that's unusual about these missions is that they're designed to encourage group play. There's nothing stopping you doing it solo. You can absolutely do it solo, although obviously in Pyro you have to take appropriate precautions if you're playing solo. But each of these missions, if you can get together a group of friends to help out, you will probably find that it will be more successful.
Did you unfix that terrible fix that you did last patch?
The initial design of EVR has been fairly successful, but it definitely has areas it needs to be improved with, and one of those areas is enabling group play instead of suppressing group play.
Yes.
And the design intention is to move away from reward splitting.
Yes, thank you.
So with that in mind, we're taking steps towards that, and these missions and the way that the rewards are structured for these missions is a good indication of that design intention.
So with all this, the mission reward system is changing, right?
The rewards that you will get will scale with the size of the group that we expect for each mission. So the small missions are designed for solo players, the medium missions are designed for around 4 to 5 to 6 players, and the large missions are designed for 10 and above players.
Yeah.
And in subsequent patches, the rewards will scale dynamically to the group that you have. And depending on the mission type that you're doing, whether it's the salvage or the mining or the debtor trine, your rewards will scale accordingly. Bear in mind that for the debtor trine missions, you have to put up the money to buy the commodity, and you will be rewarded enough to compensate you for what you've bought and a little bit extra. The other thing to bear in mind,
That's literally the best thing that they have said this entire episode. That honestly, that might be the best news I've heard all year from CIG and Star Citizen. The reward splitting, sharing, scaling appropriately with the size of the group. Absolutely. This is exactly what we need. Man, that's one of the big things, and one of my big issues with the game currently is that there's way too much friction involved in grouping up and playing with other people. One, you have the obvious social tool issues and the lack thereof. If tools and things in game that help you to find other players to play with, and the lack of organization tools that make it easier for people who are already in orgs to group up with their org members and to play together. On top of that, you have the issue of mission rewards and payouts, which up until now, the reward was always split. So if you had $100,000 mission contract, you had 2 people, you split that, it's 50K, right? So like every person you add like reduces the amount of money that you can make. And most people this is why most people play solo. A lot of people, because it's like, it's not worth it grouping up with other people because I have to split the profit with you. And what should happen is the mission payout should be individual. Like, what's the if it's 100,000, if the payout is worth $100,000, then it should just be worth 100,000 for each player, like whoever. And I love that the scaling thing is where that's a big one, because that means that the rewards will scale in size with your group size, and it doing that dynamically, that's huge. Like that's going to change how people play. And I believe with that, you will see a lot more organizations. The ones who are really active right now are going to get super active, and the ones who have kind of sort of taken a back seat are going to start to perk up a little bit and start to probably become a little bit more active, because there's a lot of organizations who have an active player base but don't actively do a lot of group play. This is going to encourage people to play together and to group up more often. Even my organization that I'm a part of, well, actually I'm a part of 2, but my main one, we have a lot of active players, but we don't actively do a lot of in-game content because it's just that there's way too many issues with grouping up with people. It's just not convenient, and it's not usually not worth the effort that it takes to get a large group together. So love to hear that. This is they're moving in the right direction.
Is that all of these missions have a secondary reward mechanic, which is that you are working to get tickets so that you can get the unique rewards, which you can only get during this mission, during this month, and then they will never be offered again.
Okay, but all right, so like now I like that, but the caveat is that sounds like those tickets can be farmed by groups. So what are they going to do to limit how those tickets are farmed? Because like if you gotta, people are going, gamers are min-maxers to the fullest. Like anybody would tell you, like, that's why like a lot of videos on games are about, oh, how you can do X, Y, Z in the most efficient way and maximize profit, because gamers are min-maxers. Like, so they're going to min-max the crap out of everything they could get their hands on. So what are they putting in place to limit like just farming of this stuff?
The redemption at Chuck E. Cheese.
I don't understand the reference, but okay.
I'm an American lost in Britain.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Why does this matter?
No Chuck E.
With our
Cheese
plans
in
for this
Britain?
whole year of more of a content-driven releases and more of a narrative storyline, as Dave previously talked about with the A and B stories, the idea is that these missions will tie into that. The side that you choose to work with will have a lasting impact. The choices you make will define the universe that you live in. And the really cool thing about Supply or Die is because of the 3 different mission types we offer you, you can get all of the rewards without ever firing a shot. And that's really exciting.
Okay, so
And as one chapter of the continuing fight for Pyro closes, another begins with Alpha 402 Supply or Die. But if you didn't get a chance to finish the February missions, we've extended them through to the end of March. So there's still time to choose your allegiances and secure the future that Pyro deserves. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you. And we'll see you all here next week on Star Citizen Live.
okay, so Star Citizen Live next week. So does that mean that they're going to alternate SCL and ISC week after week? So we got ISC this week, Inside Star Citizen. Then we got SCL. Well, we're getting the SCL next week, Star Citizen Live. Sounds like they're going to alternate or, do something. I don't know. Really good episode. That was probably if this is what they mean by content driven year, and these are the types of content updates that we're going to get. Like, not only are we getting more missions and different types of missions, but they are improving the reward system, mission payouts, and all that to make it easier to create less friction in grouping up with players, and also make it equitable for different group sizes to get rewards that are appropriate for the time and effort put in. Like, because that is a major issue with the current game right now, is that like it's not just the payouts, it's also the time and effort, and also the rewards themselves that don't feel like appropriate for the amount of time and effort it takes to do these things. So if we're getting updates and improvements in those areas, like, we're going to have a good year. And I definitely want to know more about, like, I'm curious to see about the whole ticket system and how that's going to play out. I have a feeling that's going to need to get rebalanced down the road. They probably don't have enough time to fix it, but I don't know what type of measures they have in place to mitigate any type of farming. Maybe they even need the data anyway to see how bad it gets. Maybe it won't be that bad. Also, organization and social tools, that's something that wasn't on the roadmap. It didn't get updated this roadmap roundup. So kind of kind of curious what the status of that is, because that, to me, that's a very important quality of life thing we need sooner than later. To me, like, that is a top 3 priority in a year focused on stability and playability, is those social and organization tools in game to make it easier for groups of players to get together, especially if they're going to add more sandbox activities, more things like the Supply or Die missions, the Valakar, whatever they're doing with the Hathor. All of this stuff seems like it's more focused on larger scale group play and missions. Maybe even the space missions are going to be more group play oriented. But we'll have to see. But this was a really good ISC. This is probably the best one for me personally that they've released this year. But yeah, that's all. I'm rambling now. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can catch me live on Twitch Tuesdays through Saturdays, 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, just make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more. I'll be doing reactions like this one pretty much every week for as long as I possibly can. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. And as I always say, peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.